advanced maneuvering technology called thrust vectoring to gain the advantage on his enemy. Thrust vectoring was originally developed in the 1960s for aircraft equipped with VTOL and STOL, for vertical takeoff and landing, and short takeoff and landing. Engineers quickly realized the benefits of the technology for tactical maneuvers.
Thrust vectoring is basically taking the exhaust out of the back of the engine and being able to steer it in a certain axis of flight. It's almost like a garden hose effect, if you will. If you turn the garden hose on full blast, that nozzle that the water's come out is going to push that hose around in a circle.
A handful of Generation 4 fighters, like the Su-30 and MiG-29, incorporated thrust vectoring. But not the American F-15C. The Air Force made up for this by perfecting the technology in the F-22 Raptor. As the Raptor turns, the aircraft's onboard computer makes tiny adjustments of the thrust nozzle to improve the turn radius of the aircraft.
Everybody talks about thrust vectoring as if there's some magic switch you push or something like that. There's not a light that comes on, it says thrust vectoring's working. And so it's blended very smoothly. The pilot has no idea when it's moving. And so it's just effortless. The airplane flies and points and does what he wants it to do.
Thrust vectoring seamlessly allows the Raptor pilot to turn tighter circles while maintaining airspeed. Soon, he's in position on his enemy's tail. But suddenly, a second Rafale crashes the party. The enemy gains a feint lock on the F-22 and fires. A missile warning blares in the Raptor pilot's helmet.
If I'm looking back over my shoulder and I see a puff of smoke and a missile flying my way, there are certain evasive maneuvers that I will take as a fighter pilot to try and defeat that missile. It's a combination of maneuvering and chaff and flares.
The F-22 easily breaks the missile lock, but the maneuver has put him out of position. Now he must work with his fellow pilots to turn the tables.
The scenario where I'm in my fighter, and I'm in a world of hurt, and I need some help. My buddy, who I've been training and flying with for 5 years, that guy or that gal will stop at nothing to come and put their life on the line to save mine.
Voice communications between pilots are handled by the Raptor's integrated avionics system. The second Raptor quickly comes to the aid of his fellow pilot.
It takes years of training and being exposed to different scenarios and figuring out how you're going to handle those scenarios and still come away alive and having achieved your tactical objectives.
The first Raptor breaks hard into his opponent, forcing him in the direction of the second Raptor. The second Raptor locks on with his heat-seeking AIM-9X Sidewinder missile. The AIM-9X was approved for full-rate production in 2004 and should be fielded at any time. Many details are classified, but it is known that it will possess a type of thrust vectoring technology called jet vane control, which gives it much greater agility over its predecessors. The AIM-9X can also lock onto targets up to 60 degrees angled off its nose, known as an off-bore sight shot. The F-22 easily gains lock and fires. The Rafale is obliterated. But the first F-22's not out of the woods yet. Another enemy missile rockets toward him. He brakes, releasing flares. The missile lock is broken, but the enemy is still on his tail. He must do something drastic. The American will perform a dazzling maneuver called Pugachev's Cobra, named for a Russian test pilot who first performed it. He'll use thrust vectoring to force his tail down and his nose up. His airspeed will plummet, forcing the Rafale out in front of him. A move like this could easily get out of control for a Generation 4 aircraft equipped with thrust vectoring. But the Raptor's computer-aided flight systems will ensure the pilot stays in command. The Raptor pilot pops his nose up. His airspeed drops. The Rafale fights to stay in the turn, but has no chance. He shoots past the Raptor. The move demonstrates perfectly how pilots of the future will use technology to exert far greater control over their aircraft.
Everything he does is completely under control. He's controlling every motion. None of it's ballistic. He can stop those things at any point he wants and turn it around and go the other way.
The Raptor gains lock and fires a Sidewinder. The missile hits home. The rest of the enemy force flees south. The Raptors could pursue, but they choose not to. In air-to-air combat, the United States Air Force believes the F-22 will remain dominant for at least the next 20 years. It is unlikely that another country will develop a Generation 5 aircraft to challenge it anytime soon.
Why haven't they built them? Well, because it's hard. They're not easy to build. It takes very advanced companies, very advanced teams to put them together. It is attention to every detail.
The F-22 may have control of the air, but historically the greatest threat to a fighter pilot comes from the ground.
The greatest threat now to really any of our platforms is that very highly sophisticated and integrated air defense system.
Americans have already encountered integrated air defense systems over Bosnia and Iraq. An IADS can be implemented much more readily than a top-of-the-line Air Force, which requires billions of dollars and a top-tier pilot training program. An IADS, composed mainly of radar networks and surface-to-air missiles, have been the main line of defense in most Middle Eastern countries for decades.
Those are the systems that can find you, potentially, and track you and launch on you from 100 miles away. That is a pretty impressive brick wall that a country can put up if they don't want you to come into their territory. So you've got to find new ways to get up to that wall and knock the thing down.
In the future, these radar stations will be harder to find and destroy. Surface-to-air missiles will be longer range and more accurate. A strike mission against any country equipped with an advanced IADS will put the pilot of a Generation 5 fighter to the ultimate test. July 22nd, 2019. In a hypothetical combat scenario, a joint strike force of American and British planes soar over the Caspian Sea. On this night, a mission to strike suspected uranium enrichment sites will take them deep into a country fortified with an advanced integrated air defense system. At the tip of the spear will be a formation of 4 F-22s, escorting 12 F-35 Lightnings, the Joint Strike Fighter. The F-35 began its development process